Okay. So just to provide some context, I was looking for assets for the SDRs to use when in their follow-up or their outreach calls when a customer has engaged in a trial. And that was kind of the genesis for this, because it occurred to me that if they're in a trial in the product, y'all are outreaching to them as well. And so wondering what you're using and to see if there's some synergy there and a way to reinforce one another. And then also I reached out to CS because they have material that they give to customers that don't have a TAM to help them get started for onboarding. That's not necessarily for a trial, but similar circumstance, I think. So really this call was about connecting the dots for the trial user, just to see if there's things that we can do together even better than individually.
Yeah. And just to tack on to that a little bit, so one of the things that SDR has been thinking about is how do we have a unified message that we're giving prospects all the way from initial engagement through the evaluation process, all the way to customer onboarding, right? So right now I see some of the challenges that we have many different groups. Sometimes we're going to naturally drift just because we are independently writing content and material from each other. And so the challenges with this is like, what if we have two groups that are actually reaching out to the same person, right? So they're part of a nurture campaign, but SDR is also reaching out to this person. I don't know if we have good process for even figuring out like, how do we not email the same person? But I think that there is a tactical thing about like, how do we get a good trial experience? But the larger thing that I'd love to plant is how do we have unified messaging in a consolidated process that really makes sense all the way from initial engagement, all the way through the customer journey. So like wins would be if there was shared messaging, if the voice sounded similar, if we didn't duplicate stuff. So if in a nurture campaign, they send out this demo, the SDR doesn't send out the same demo, right? And maybe that's another group isn't sending out the same resource, but ideally it should be different, right? And that we're actually working together. So trial campaign, I think would be a great like immediate thing to fix. But one thing that I just want to start getting us to think about is how do we work together? And if we work together, I think we can get an org level win.
Christopher, are you part of the SDR? And I guess Ramona, are you both part of the SDR organization?
Yep, Chris is more focused on enablement and some of like, and so he's tied to enabling our SDRs to have the right messaging when they reach out. So he's also kind of, starting to take some more ownership of what our messaging looks like in our sequences. And then I'm on the operational side. So getting the sequences put together, making sure that the steps are actually happening, making sure that we're using the steps that are having the best results, all that good stuff. So we're kind of tag teaming this initiative.
Yeah, I think that's super cool that all of those make a lot of sense. I think maybe what I can do, within growth, we have been doing some work that's trying to help drive conversion, improving trial. I can give a super quick kind of overview of what we have done so that gives you some idea. And we'd love to know, we really want to know what SDR organization has been doing, because the process, kind of the messaging, we don't have a lot of visibility. So I think it's a great potential conversation we can have there. So let me share my screen. I added some content. I wouldn't go through all of them. But so this one is a deck that is kind of a nice summary of what we have been doing as an entire growth product organization. And then this one basically talk about, we have 4 groups, what each of the group is doing. This is a kind of a perspective how we think about new user funnel, including trial, to be part of it. Basically, whenever a new team sign up for GitLab, we want to help them begin to use the product. So a lot of the Mike's here, we have another team member, Jensen. A lot of their work is to make sure the new user can sign up very smoothly. Like you finish all the sign up flow, as well as we provide some onboarding guidance to get you to use the feature, whether it's set up your first repo, kind of run your first pipeline, so that you can get to that aha moment. Basically, you know how to use GitLab, you finish the basic setup, you use the useful feature for the first time, you're like, oh, this is good. So that's a lot of that team's focus area.
Sheila, is all of that, those kind of things happening inside of the product? These aren't necessarily emails that are going out that's like, hey, use this or do this, correct?
Yeah, that's a really good question. We primarily use product, like growth product team is a product team, right? So primarily our area is focusing on in-product experience. So sign up flow, like the in product, we provide some onboarding to get you started, to help you understand. But we also do some emails. Think about emails is primarily owned by marketing team, but we collaborate with them. We also do some experiments there to support whatever we want to get new users to achieve. And I think content can be part of this as well, right? Whether it's in the email or in the product, if we want to teach you how to use create or verify, we need to teach you use content, like whether it's video or writing. So there's a lot of opportunity for those things to be kind of utilized in this bigger sequence. And then from there, like think about new users, they finish sign up, they begin to use the product, they see the value. We also want to drive them to, now they are still a free user, maybe they're in trial. We want to drive them to convert to a paid customer. So that's where a lot of Sam's team's work is focusing on. Sam's team and Gail as well, they focus on the trial experience. How do they know the value of a paid product during trial? Like, do they even know they're using some paid features? Do they know there is 30-day limit? So a lot of the reminder or nudge we can give them during trial to get them to convert, as well as we're working on the PQL, product qualified leads. I think Ramona, you are part of that. You probably know a little bit. So how we can, in addition to MQL, how we can also capture the users or teams are using the product and send those to the sales team. I think there are a lot of collaboration we can have, because the PQLs are people who are really using the product. How we treat them, how we convert them might be slightly different from MQL, because you essentially could have more data. You already know they're using the product in certain ways. And then
some of the part, just Hila, just to back up on that part, is that most of those PQLs come in as MQLs. And so the SDRs have already started actioning them like MQLs is what we're finding out a lot of the time. And then they get those scores, but they're already kind of in motion, already in the sequence. Out of the SDRs, kind of that stuff being seen is kind of already almost too late by the time we start capturing some of that. So the ones where it does make a difference are on leads that didn't quite MQL, because maybe they don't have a business domain or something like that, but they're showing high usage. And then the PQL, the hope is that it'll start impacting that MQL score. So where now it comes up on the SDR radars and they can say, hey, you need to sequence these folks as well based on their PQL score.
Those are great feedback. I think Sam, we should work with Ramona and the team to figure out how to make it more efficient, because I don't know, I believe PQL are in a way kind of lower hanging fruit if they're already using it, right? That's kind of give us more information. The customers are more engaged. So those have very high potential. I guess now you don't get them soon enough, or we already take action early on, right? Maybe that's not the right time to take action yet. I don't know. I'm just kind of throwing those ideas out.
So I'll just add some context here. So right now, the only quote unquote usage PQL that's being sent is if somebody indicates they're planning to use GitLab for their company or not. And we're attaching that with the SaaS trial. The plan is, and I met with Sindhu yesterday, is we want to develop an intermediary kind of layer in our database where we take our product usage information, including from free users that just signed up for our product. We understand if they're companies and how they're using the product. And then we can start to understand at that level, okay, where is there good quality, not only in terms of usage, but pulling in Zoom info information to say like, okay, this is a high value company. And then we can alert the sales team on those like kind of all encompassing usage and Zoom info information. The idea is that we can have a database where we just can combine all of these things, and we can have analysts that can just indicate what they want to be as triggers. And then we can sync that over so that the sales team can get access to high value users that haven't taken some other action, like raising their hand saying they want to speak to sales or starting a trial.
Yeah, Sam, I think we
have
should
a
definitely talk
question.
about that because I'd like to understand like how they're going to, like how we can map it into our current process so that they automatically would show up for us. So if that's impacting lead score, and then we change the last interesting moment to the reason why it's, MQLing is because of high product or this, whatever, we start figuring out the nomenclature for what we would say, what you just said is all these factors. But then I think we could actually like have it be something that gets scored and routed to the SDRs, and they know to manage it differently based on that last interesting moment.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be sure to include you in that. This is like
Cool.
literally fresh off the
Phase one.
press
Yeah,
yesterday.
sure. Yeah.
But I think that kind of vision will get us to a place where we can balance, the volume of leads that we get into the free product and trying to weed through them and understanding like which ones are real businesses and which ones have real usage, and then mining that data together to get to a smaller subset each month or each day really of high value accounts that the team should go after.
I wanted to ask you something that just for clarity too. You said you get those over to sales. Are you giving them to the SDRs, which are actually part of marketing, or are you giving them to someone else?
Sorry, yeah, I was using sales as a broad term.
Okay.
I'm happy to, as we build this out, send it wherever makes the most sense. In working with marketing previously, my hunch is the best path is probably to send it to Marketo first and then to Salesforce, because it reduces the duplicates in their system, and there's a whole host of reasons why. But I think we should solve for all teams and make sure it goes to the right place.
Yeah. If it's still a lead record, then it definitely needs to go to, or it should follow the leads go to SDRs. But if we're feeding this into like an account information thing, demand based or whatever, we're putting it as part of the score so that an AE can look at it from an account perspective, then we would want to handle that a little bit differently. We might do both actually. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, and I will finish this up. So PQL is definitely a big focus area. Sam's team has been driving that. His team is also working on trial experiments in product. And we also have Gail's team focus on kind of if someone is ready to buy in the product, can he buy very smoothly? Can he find where to pay and go through the checkout experience? So there's a lot of focus on the self-service purchase as well. So high level, that's where we have been focusing on. I added the slides give you a kind of overview of the focus area. I think, yeah, definitely there is a lot of opportunity in both, right? We can leverage a lot of content and in the entire onboarding process to introduce GitLab to our customers and users, prospects. We also should work with your team very closely to make sure you know the why behind the PQL so that you can utilize those kind of reasoning in your messaging and all of that.
Yeah, so Gila, it would be helpful if I could also understand so out of those emails that you'll send during that time, it sounds like they may not always be the same based on what they're doing and what they're engaging with. You may send different things based on that. I'm not sure. And I'm talking specifically email wise, and that they're more technically focused than they are like sharing like a content resource, like a check out why Gartner says this, or check out this case study or something along those lines. Is that correct?
Is there a way for us to see the emails that you're sending out? Because that would prevent us from duplicating what you're doing, right? The purpose of it's different. And I just kind of wonder, like, from an ideal state, if we could just get to a place where we had a user journey for email in general, like maybe that's like a Q1, Q2 goal, but if we're all coming
So
together and think about what this really makes sense,
Yeah, we can. So I think just to be clear, the official owner of our user email life cycle marketing
marketing.
program is marketing.
Mhm.
So I don't know, have you met Luis and Jackie? Basically, we established that team that will be focused on lifecycle marketing primarily. And growth, we did launch some like email nurture campaign previously with Newt. I don't know whether you work with her.
Yeah.
Basically, yeah, we have some we have a couple email that's sent to free users, basically trying to get them to take some specific actions. There is one focused on having them invite more users. There is one focused on getting them started with create. The other one is getting started with verify. We can definitely find those and share with you. However, I think moving forward, the like adding more and managing the entire program will be under Luis and Jackie, as this is kind of their ownership area.
So just add some additional color there. The way that it works today is if you sign up for the free product, we will send you product emails that are sent from your mail server if you're self-managed. And if you're on SaaS, it sends from the mail server that we have attached to the SaaS product, which is Mailgun. That these emails will send to every user in the namespace, and they're relating to like core product actions like inviting colleagues, setting up create. If you have successfully set up create, we don't send that series, we move to verify. If you set up verify, it goes on to like, I think like 2 others. Jensen on the growth team has built this out. The benefit of that system is it allows us to send onboarding email content to self-managed users who we otherwise don't know who they are. And we don't have access to their emails because these are built into the instance. Then when somebody starts a SaaS trial, those emails are paused and the marketing team has an email series that goes out during the SaaS trial. Once the trial ends, if they're back into the free product, these emails continue.
I get it. Yeah, I'm just thinking like the TAM organization, they have their own like onboarding moments that matter, right? It seems like the goal is pretty similar, that they're trying to get them set up and create and then verify and stuff. So it's almost like one of those things where once again, it's like the user journey, right? So it's the nurture campaign. Then there's the product stuff, which is using Jackie's emails. Then there's SDR, and then finally the TAM organization. It seems very similar motion between what TAM is doing and what the product.
Yeah, we have been in conversation with TAM prior to this for sure. So TAM's team, Newt's team, and the growth team have been in conversation when we talk about the free user nurture project. For the most part, TAM's focus are paid customers, whether it's smaller. Like for the larger ones, they all have a kind of designated TAM. For the smaller ones, they use emails. I believe Michelle is the manager, and she has been conversation with us and Newt for sure. So that for the most part, they are focusing on paid customers, and we are focusing on free users. So those are not like 100% overlapped. For the most part, not overlapped for sure. And the nurture emails are focused on free users. They haven't been paid yet. And then it sounds like the SDR org is looking to send a set of new emails. Is that the case?
Yeah, basically when we get an MQL, and specifically if it's a trial, if that's the last interesting moment, they started a trial, then the SDRs make a decision on whether or not they move it into a high touch or a low touch sequence. Our high touch sequences all run for 14 days. And within those 14 days, they get 10 touches, but those touches could be times when they leave a voicemail. Most of the time, they're not going to leave a voicemail. So they're not going to necessarily see the name of the SDR each time, and they're spread across phone, email, and LinkedIn. So within those 14 days, they're getting 3 emails though. They're all should be in high touch, some sort of personalized. In low touch, they wouldn't be. They would just be kind of auto emails. And I can share my screen just to kind of show what we just worked out with Cindy on kind of new messaging. So they're going to start with, hey, I'm your point of contact for your GitLab trial. And they're going to be trying to drive them to setting up some time to talk through their initiatives. Like, why are they doing this? And let's make sure that you can get the most out of your trial. And of course, we try to include a resource in each email that we send, something that's applicable to, we're doing this right now based on their segment. So this is for mid-market and large. From there, you can see that we called first, we sent a manual email, we are sending a connection request. A lot of these are also just so that they know I'm an actual human, like this isn't an automation. So hoping that they're seeing us in some of the platforms that they understand, like, or through some of the channels that where they can understand this is a human trying to reach out to you. This is just a reply email, let them know that we called. Again, another resource that might be helpful for them.
So you are sending to trials, specific, like a small group of trials or all trials?
If typically a trial is most likely to make the lead MQL, unless it doesn't have a business email domain. We can't, like that might keep its score from MQLing. But most trials are MQLing, especially if they have a business domain. They just we give them a high score. But yeah, these all happen at post trial. This isn't the only kind of MQL we get. We also work demo MQLs. We work a content piece, maybe the final thing that makes them MQL, an event, and those would all get a different kind of sequence. But yeah, trials, if they're high touch, this would kind of be their cadence.
Got you. I see. Is this the trial nurture that Dunk has been talking about? Like,
no, I think what he's talking about is once they go through this SDR sequence, and they get moved to, they didn't respond to their nurture, they're unresponsive, and they didn't convert to an SAO, then at that point, Dunk's team would pick them up and start trying to put them into some sort of cadence that's helping them to start, like get more familiar with GitLab.
Maybe
go ahead.
Yeah, maybe a good place for us to start is just to map out like roughly like here's the stage, what each group is doing. Because I think that that's something that would give people lift without like, that's something that we could all do in like 10 minutes in all honesty.
I think this is exactly we have actually done something similar with Newt and also customer success team. This is exactly the reason we recommend marketing to be the overall owner, like lifecycle marketing team to be the overall owner of all the various email programs. And because to your point, right, like CS are sending emails to paid customers. Our like lifecycle marketing program is managing all of those. I think this is the new piece of information that we're also sending this SDR emails to the trial users. We need I think that in that conversation, we talk with Dunk, we talk with Sharad and Newt. We agreed that marketing team should be owning and managing the overall program. Luis, Cindy, I added the issue that he's working on in our agenda, so you can reach out to him and Jackie. From growth perspective, for the most part, we're not adding any new emails. Like this free email nurtures is established. We can definitely share with you so that you know all the triggers and things like that. We're not planning to adding new emails. We want to have Luis kind of take a look of those sequences and potentially taking into consideration of your team's programs and think about the bigger picture. I think one challenge we definitely identified last time is all the systems each team is using are separate. Like sales team is using Gainset, your team is using a tool I just saw, right? And we are using the product kind of to trigger the emails, and marketing team has been using Marketo. So that's another gap in the system, and we definitely identified that gap and recommended to the marketing team to think about the longer term solution to fix that. And I believe that's also on Jackie and Luis kind of roadmap and long-term thinking as well.
Yeah, I just added, sorry, to the bottom of the doc, I was pinging Jensen just to see if he had a handy flow chart to break down the emails that we currently have. And so at the bottom of the doc, the one that's easier to read, that's the current state. And then there's another version below that he shared of where he potentially would want to take this. The red things don't exist yet. So I think that's probably what he's coordinating with Luis on. But that's, if it's helpful at all, with what the breakdown is of the current emails and how they work. And as Sam noted, I think the thing to understand here is it's there's this time series, day 1, day 5, day 10. But if you've completed one of those actions, you basically just go on to the next one. So there's not a set, schedule or determined number of emails that the user will receive. It depends a bit on their interaction with the product and what they've completed.
Yeah, that would
I
be the
have
same
a-
case with the, sorry, go ahead, Ty, you
I just wanna
to share.
do a quick plug real quick before the meeting's over. But I have a an interest in what's being sent in terms of, like, we're talking about emails and, you're sending them to set up, create, or verify, and what that actually is from the technical marketing standpoint. We have a lot of, and this is something we're marketing, but even this team, more visual assets such as like quality made demos that can help people along that process and getting set up. So I have an interest across all these different nurtures in what's being shown there. One other thing I'll say that we don't have to have a conversation around is the UX team has done also a longitudinal qualitative research around a user's behavior, and they have a whole deck on that. The sample size is around 8 or 9 people that they followed for 3 months. So that's also some valuable information that they put together showing how people are trying to onboard into the tool that we're working with them to try to create content. They actually have a tutorials page now on GitLab docs as well. That's to address that.
Thanks, Ty. We only have 1 minute left, or it just hit 1 on my clock. What do we want to do for next steps regarding this? What
I
makes it?
think my recommendation is for you to connect with Louise. I'm happy to join that conversation. Like Louise will be the kind of overseeing the overall lifecycle marketing program. So it's good to start there. And I also attached a previous conversation we had with Duncan Newt and CS. We identified a lot of overlaps, and the proposal we made is to have marketing managing the overall programs. Other teams need to work through them so that we have that central team. Otherwise, we'll be always in kind of this type of similar situation.
The other benefit of that is if it's centralized, we can actually track it and collect data. If it's spread out across 5 different platforms, then it's just.
I agree 100%. Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
Cool.
Thanks,
Bye.
everybody. Super helpful. Bye, y'all.